Spy Cops Info Podcast, a series on the secret undercover political police who infiltrated over 1,000 campaign groups since 1968. Episode 39, Eveline Lubbers, Watching the Detectives. Welcome to the Spy Cops Info Podcast. My name is Tom Fowler and I'm joined with
Eveline Lubbers from the Undercover Research Group.
Regular watchers of the Spy Cops Inquiry coverage will recognise Evelyne's voice. I feel like we're a double act a lot of the time.
Yes, we are. And we're doing pretty well. We've got used to it.
Been on the podcast before, but not for ages. We don't do the podcast that often, but very regularly when the hearings are on, we do like an enormous amount of videos. More often than not together, like following the inquiry. So I've been meaning to get you on to do one of these podcasts for ages. Do you want to just tell us about how you got involved in this whole process? Because like, unlike everybody else who's like kind of really engaged in following the inquiry, I mean, you're not based in the UK. You're not from the UK. Yeah, how did you get involved?
I used to do this kind of work in the Netherlands for ages. Like when I was active as a squatter in the 80s, we set up Bureau Jansen and Jansen, which translates to Thompson and Thompson, the two clumsy detectives from the Tintin comics. Because we started to monitor the police. We wanted to know how they would deal with squatting and with all the activism that we did. So we studied their strategies and we explained to people what to expect. And also when the police started to approach people to give information about their friends, we did like similar kind of work as we now do with the Undercover Research Group, like talk to these people, advise them on what to do, on how to deal with it, publish it so that more people would know and would know what to do when, you know, the two sort of raincoats would turn up at your doorstep. So I have a long history in this kind of work. At a certain point, we found out that large companies would also infiltrate campaigns and movements and send in people to gather information. We exposed some. So, and I also, like in the early days, I wrote about, in that context, about the McLibel trial. So I got to know Helen and Dave like really early on. And I also helped them and setting up their marvelous website McSpotlight in the Netherlands because of libel reasons. So I've been there on the background like a really long time. So and yeah, I did a book. I edited a book about strategies of large companies back in 2002. And then did more work about companies myself, about like really cases of companies that infiltrated movements and built strategies against campaigners. And that became a book as well, Secret Maneuvers in the Dark. So when the whole Mark Kennedy stuff started, I think, I don't know whether I should name names, but we were at Bureau Jansen Jansen, we were asked to collate the first information because there was like so many stories going on, so much, you know, people who were like so shocked and sort of there was no central place, and it was better that it was collated somewhere else for some time. So that's basically how I got involved, also because we were like, you know, like this was their specialty basically. And that is how I got involved, and that is how sort of, I don't know when I met Jonah for the first time, but we started having, like we called them, roundtable meetings to talk to people what they had gone through, and basically to already collate experiences and start looking into patterns. And because, you know, it became it became clear pretty early on that there was many similar stories about what the undercover officers had done. So basically that is like I found one of the early roundtable meetings notes. They were like in early 2013. So yes, I've been around for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I remember like, us meeting up. I think it was like in that weird pub on Bristol Temple Meads, like Platform One.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, around that time.
Yeah.
I had no idea we'd end up being like working together so closely for so many
Oh,
years at that time.
you were there as well. I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's right. Yeah. So yeah, that's my involvement, and I get the question a lot. Like people say, "But you haven't been spied on." I'm thinking you don't know, but not by not by this lot. And I don't know. I have made it my niche, so to say, for like decades, basically. So in that sense, it's not such a miracle that I get involved. On the other hand, yeah, like the fact that we founded the undercover research group and I became so involved, I wouldn't have known, but I at a certain point I thought, that either you do this or you don't. And yeah, I had another job before and I tried to split my time between the University of Bath studying the tobacco industry. Um, and this, but both in fact wanted me full time, so I got pulled in all kind of ways and then decided, okay, let's just go for this. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, I can really relate to that. The idea that you could do more than one thing when the inquiry's on, it's just not viable,
Uh-uh.
is it?
No.
The undercover research group, like you mentioned, Donald. There, we had him on one. I think it was episode 11 of the Spy Cops Info
Hmm.
podcast. Yeah, like there's like a small group of you who've been doing like a lot of different like research. I always feel a bit. A lot of people kind of say to me, "Oh, you're the only person who's gone to every hearing of the inquiry," and I always have to say, "Well, Evelyn's been to nearly every hearing of the inquiry as well."
It's just because when my father died, I had to go home. Yeah, it was a good excuse.
Sure, yeah, yeah, but I mean, for the most part, there's very few hearings that you've missed. You've immersed yourself in this stuff just as much as I have, as much as anybody could. And you've been like, unlike me, who just rants about it at the time. You're doing like the really hard work of the deep research and like producing like really detailed, in-depth reports on these officers and the kind of stuff they do. And you've been putting that together now in this new website that has just launched. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, yeah. Maybe start with the website we did before that, because um, as you said, we help people investigate suspicions because after Mark Kennedy and the first few others were exposed by the partners they deceived into a relationship. It soon became clear, people started thinking like there was this person that was very intense into our lives and then suddenly disappeared. And then, yeah, so we started helping those investigations and sort of got specialized in first proof. You want to prove someone exists who disappeared. There's plenty of reasons that people disappear. It doesn't make them an undercover officer disappearing into nowhere, ceasing to exist. So we helped exposing Carlo Nero, or Sorachi, who what he's called in his real name, uh, and I can't. The person that is usually referred to as shitface is
Anti Coles.
Andy
The
Coles.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and yeah, we had a website back then, which was part of Powerbase.info, and we did like really, really detailed profiles of them, including how we exposed them. The website's still there. But when the inquiry started, we realized that there's such a lot of disclosure coming out, all the spy reports from the early days, and the inquiry. Part of their task is making that making that public and making that available. But their website is, well, I won't use too many words for it, but it's shite. It's like you can't find anything. Everybody's complaining about it. They are improving it a bit, but we certainly realized at a quite early stage that this needed to be better. So basically, combined the new website, which is called SpyCops research.info, is basically trying to combine the work we did in the early days, like building profiles of undercovers, of the superiors, of the units they were in, the tactics they used. So it has like loads and loads of articles on all these different subjects. And then it also tries to have all the disclosure on it in a searchable way. You can search it in, like we now we have the trench one, so the earliest period that the inquiry went through is online, and because the inquiry is like with trench 3 almost starting and trench 2 having finished in February this year, the disclosure is still not completely available, and we want to sort of download everything. We can't just download a bit and then we have no way to find out what will come, later on. So Trench 2 is not on there yet, but it will be as soon as it's available. So we have, so there's two sides to the two parts to the website, basically the articles and all the disclosure and the statements from everybody and the transcripts. And we're now also putting up the videos of the hearings. But the inquiry has just, they filmed most of the stuff and then just, like dumped it on YouTube. What we have done is like we cut out all the breaks, when there were during the hearing, sometimes there was a breach because one of the officers would have said a name, and then there would have been a 10 minutes pause on how they deal with it. We've cleaned up those videos and put like name cards, who is speaking and what, and when there was a break, what the break was about. So we're making them accessible, and we're working on putting them online now as well. So it's a huge website, it's a huge effort. And that has been our work like over the past, well, since the hearing started, maybe. And it's, so it's very different work from, exposing undercovers is like way more exciting. Working on a website, making sure all the connections are okay. Anyway,
because you started so much with the feeling for these, like looking for these things and finding exposing these officers in the first place. It's like you kind of set yourself up this huge body of work of like you just backfilling in, because I remember like early days, there was that pamphlet you did, Was My Friend a Spy Cop, which is still available. We push it less now, but it is still out there. And like identifying who these officers were. And now you've been left with this unenviable task, filling in all the details. It's a tremendous amount of work, and I'm incredibly useful. I mean, the only way I've been able to follow understand the inquiry is following it in real time. For anybody to like trying to jump in like now and understand it, if it wasn't for the work you've been doing in putting this website together, I don't think it would really be possible.
well, I envy you. You have so much details in your head. For me, it has become too much. I can't reproduce them like from the top of my head, which you can, which is like really something, I wish I could, but I can't. Um, and it's good you mentioned that, because like part of the website, which is called Inquiry, also explains all the nitty-gritty details of the procedures of the inquiry, all the lingo that's being used, like the really weird words that we use as if they're normal, but they're not. Like the first feedback we got when we soft launched the website was like nominals. There was another word, like, people really went like, how do I know what this page is about? And we know, nominals, that's the HN numbers, that's the numbers all the undercovers get. And it's like you you really have to be careful not to use that lingo too much. But also, we have like a very large explainer of all those weird words and a glossary. And then, yeah, if you're new to the inquiry or you only come to it now because the time that you were active is now being dealt with, you can go to this inquiry part of the website and sort of learn what is expected of you and learn what all the weird terms are, all the weird procedures are, because it is a very weird process.
Yeah, I really resent the way that tranche has entered my vocabulary. I like this, like this just ridiculous word that's like now I say like every day. Like how did
Yeah,
this happen?
it's like even we had to do another funding application because we need to get ourselves like at least sort of a minimal pay for this. And then exactly that effect happens, that you're using all kind of terminology that you think like, okay, our contact person with the fund will know this, but will the board who has to judge our application, will they know what we're talking about? Yeah, you just even, as we are in the business of explaining things, it becomes difficult for us to sort of use common people language. It's really weird.
Like, I mean, that's how it's designed. It's designed to be alienating. It's designed for like ordinary people not to feel that they can really enter this legalese world. That's how like kind of lawyers have like set themselves up as this sort of priest class who can like kind of communicate between us ordinary folks and the legal process. And yeah, like I think it's a huge part of the kind of work that we both do when the inquiry's on, of just sort of like decoding what's actually just happened and like kind of explaining it in plain English. But it's an ongoing process, and it's so like, I mean, I find it with acronyms, like we're so used, because so many of the lawyers use acronyms all the time, and then they start like pronouncing them. So people start talking about UCCOs and like, undercover officers, and it's just like, oh, like stop. At least, and then it's so hard to like stop yourself from using them yourself when you're explaining this stuff. So yeah, it's that's a huge issue.
That's weird because maybe because I'm Dutch, I say Yukos. But also we are getting the word spy cops into the dictionary. There's like even the Guardian has started using it. They were like at the beginning they were really like we have to stay neutral and we can't use the activisty words or whatever. And spy cops is just such a good summary. The spy cop scanner just sums it all up. And we've been, yeah, we've all been telling them not to put a space in because we want it as a word into the dictionary. And I've now seen it in academic papers as well. So, getting there, getting there.
It's been a huge part of us reclaiming the narrative, actually, that word. I mean, I think it's quite an interesting sort of case study for activists generally, to have a word that's like kind of very associated with your narrative of events. And for us, because the narrative was so contested, because all this stuff was so secret, and the police were unwilling to do anything, it was neither confirm nor deny, was just like their standard line for so many years. Like now we're in this age of huge levels of disclosure, albeit as you mentioned earlier, we're not getting disclosure in a timely manner. It's in some cases, there's hearings that happened, almost a year ago where the disclosure hasn't been released in relation to it. Yet we've seen that disclosure being referenced in the questioning and stuff. Yet we don't have the PDF files yet, which there's no really. I mean, apart from the fact that the inquiry is overwhelmed, there's no real excuse for it. But yeah, like kind of having that as a have for activists, kind of reclaiming that narrative has been a huge part of what we've done, and the word has been a really big part of how we've been able to do that. You're part of the undercover research group. It's not just you. You've mentioned Donal, obviously, as well. Chris Bryan, also of this parish, a regular co-host with myself, is another one of your colleagues. Between yourself and there are other members of the undercover research group as well. You do a lot of different kinds of work. I guess this website like kind of really is kind of bringing all of that together. But do you want to just talk through some of the other kind of work you do?
Yeah, we still support people who have suspicions. They come to us with their stories, and fortunately, then, like these kind of processes always attract a lot of people that have like, are convinced that helicopters above the city are there for them specifically. All of that. We don't have that many. We do support people in with writing their submissions, or like if they have specific questions. Like just last week, Donna McLean contacted me asking that piece of Michael Gillard in Private Eye that first exposed the real name of Carlo Ceracchi in print. What was the date? Do you have a copy of it? And the copy was still was on the Powerbase website, so that was easy. Like it is like a sort of a place where you can find everything. And then it was pretty easy to find the date. And that was very important also for her lawyers to put that in a statement and in their opening speech. So we did, like we get countless of those small questions, which more and more will, people will be able to find on the website. We do talks whenever we're invited for either, activist audiences or Chris going to academic conferences to spread the word, so to say. We are like at the start of the next tranche, there we go, of hearings. Like in October, we'll start with the period, help me,
So it's
92.
1993 to 2007.
Yeah. And people who first are get involved now as witnesses, we're going to organize an event in Mayday rooms to sort of introduce people to the inquiry and to our work and how we can help them. So and for instance, I think there's a play in Cardiff now, a theatre play.
No, it's a play in Newport,
In
which is
Newport, actually. Oh my God,
yeah,
how could I not
a
know that?
totally different city to Cardiff, despite what people from outside of Wales seem to think. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
demanding the impossible. Yeah, starts October the 8th, I think, until the 13th. Highly recommend. Yeah, I've been working alongside both myself and others from the Undercover Research Group from Police Spies Out of Lives. Yeah, working with Commonwealth Theatre Company who are putting on this play, which is like it's immersive experience, part gig, part performance. It's they're really well respected theatre group. Yeah, really recommend coming along if you're able to.
Yeah, so there's the point is that loads of our work is in the background. So my face is like up there with yours, but on the other hand, a lot of people don't, it's a lot of invisible work. We also, help the lawyers whenever they need any, we do briefings for the lawyers on I've been trying to pull together what is known in the public domain about special branch and the far right, because that is going to be a topic in the coming hearings. And it's like, that so they're building their statements, and we try to fill in those kind of details because we know where to find stuff. And that's sort of that I've now looked up so much stuff that I'm thinking I need to do a page on that, so that it's available on the website as well. Yeah, so that's the kind of work we do as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a tsunami of information. And it's so weird because when we started this process, it was such a trickle. And then it just changed. It's changed so much. At one time, the problem was people wanting to know more. And it was like, well, we've got these ideas. There's not that much to tell. But then it became a thing of like, there's so much information. It's like the other way around.
Yeah, yeah.
And like particularly for people, I mean, there will be a lot more people. I mean, I'm hoping there'll be a lot more people following like the next set of hearings because we are getting to much more the modern period. We are finally getting into this century because so much, obviously all the hearings so far have related to stuff in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s. And we're now getting to the late 90s, the 2000s. I'm really keen for more people to engage. And this event, you mentioned this event at the Mayday Rooms, and not just that, there will be plenty of opportunity for people to engage with the next set of hearings if it affects them, and like learning about how this process works. You know, how we'll be finding stuff out, how it'll be presented, and what all that's like. So if you are affected or if you're just interested, please do get in touch. Check out the spycopsresearch.info website and get in touch with the Undercover Research Group if you need to know more, or you need support about your own experiences of being infiltrated. Yeah, I mean, you are still keen for people to get in contact with you, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I can't really promise that we have as much time as we used to have. But yeah. Yeah, that is one of our main problems, like doing both, like you said, following the hearings and reading all the material that is now coming out for the people involved in this tranche, and then still work on the website and populating it. It's just too much, Yeah, it's really much. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. As you say, the inquiry is about to start, so we'll be going ham again fairly soon. I think listeners of this podcast, people who just listen to this podcast, missed out on the vast majority of the coverage of the inquiry that we do. So if you are interested more in this stuff, please follow us on social media. Just find the hashtag SpyCops, and you'll find the live coverage as it's coming out. We go live on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter, X, or whatever they call it now. I presume SpyCops TV on Twitch will be happening again, so you can follow us on Twitch as well if you want. Most of the videos of me and Eveline and all the other people that we chat to at the hearings are available on YouTube, on the Campaign Opposing Police Surveillance channel. And please, check out spycopsresearch.info, where you'll find like all this information we've talked about in huge amounts of detail. And if it's not there yet, it will be soon. It's going to be like a constant process of stuff being updated. You can also check out spycops.info, which is the website of this podcast. That'll be relaunching soon, and hopefully it'll look a lot better than it currently does. You can find all the previous episodes of this podcast and share them with your friends.
Do visit the website, yes, do, and let us know what you think of it and how it's set up and what you couldn't find, or all positive comments welcome as well.
The hearings will restart on the 13th of October. It'll be running through till the end of July, apparently. Lots of breaks in that. We'll be hearing from all sorts of undercover officers. There'll be some managers from the previous tranche. They didn't get a chance to question last time. Will be appearing at the very beginning. We'll do another episode with like more detail about that. I might do an article on my Ko-fi blog previewing what to expect. But thanks for joining us. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Demand the Impossible, Commonwealth's new production, will premiere at the Corn Exchange in Newport, South Wales in October 2025. Part performance, part punk gig, part sensory experience, Demand the Impossible is an immersive 90-minute performance exploring police injustice and the undercover infiltration of activist networks. It challenges us to question truth, trust and power as uncomfortable relationships between the state, police and citizens are exposed.
What if we told you there are people who dare to imagine something different, who push against the system, stand up for what is right, who demand the impossible, dedicate their lives to their cause, campaign for justice, to stop a bomb, change a law, save a life? What if we told you their friends and lovers were spying on them, eating at their tables, sleeping in their beds and dancing with them at raves? What if we told you about construction workers who were refused work, illegally blacklisted after cops grassed them up to their bosses as troublemakers? What if we told you police spied on racial justice campaigns, surveilling families grieving the loss of their murdered children? All of this happened, orchestrated, sanctioned, and paid for by the state.
Featuring a reverberating live score, pumping techno, live visuals and augmented reality streams, Demand the Impossible creates an immersive world, reaching back across decades of civil action into the 21st century and beyond. The show runs between the 6th and the 13th of October 2025 at the Corn Exchange Newport, NP20 1AA. Tickets are now on sale. Our ticket prices range from £7.50 to £17. Our concessionary rates are for young people, students, low wage and older people. They are self-selecting, no proof or ID will be required. Would you like to know more about Demand the Impossible, including more access and content information? If so, check out our show page on Commonwealth's website, commonwealththeatre.co.uk/shows. Demand the Impossible has been developed in close collaboration with Undercover Research Group, Police Spies Out of Lives, and the Spy Cops Info podcast.